hope my volume's on. I hope you can hear me. Happy Friday. I started to say happy Monday. That's how mush my brain is this week from trying to shove so many different concepts into it. But hello. I'm happy to be here. I know that we have a lot of wins in the community. I had a lot when I was printing off this morning, so that made me very happy, even though I haven't had a chance to go over them yet. It's been quite the week. Does anyone else feeling that? That there's just something in the air? But if this is your, oh, yep, Dan says remember the time change. Yep, so it might be a little bit different for some people because Arizona doesn't change time, and a lot of other people do because I know we're kind of the outcasts. So unless you're in Arizona or Colorado, this might be a little off for you. I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me, David. But yeah, if this is your first stream, welcome. If you are an old timer here and you're used to me and my craziness, welcome also. I am excited to dive in today. Let's see, we have Pete. Hello, Pete. Pete Odeth. Rah, I love it. Hello, good day to you too. But if this is your first time, please keep in mind that I am not a mental health professional yet. I can say that now. I'm not a mental health professional, so any insights or anything I give is just based on my experience and the experience of people that I've interacted with. If you are in a mental health crisis, please make sure that you're reaching out to the appropriate organizations that can help you. I always link the suicide hotlines by country in the description of my videos. So if you are needing immediate help, please make sure that you're reaching out because we do care if your light goes out and you deserve healing and you deserve happiness. So it might get kind of crazy in here. It tends to get extremely overwhelming in the messages. So if you want to make sure that I see a message, please use that super chat or super sticker function. All of the proceeds go toward my mental health outreach. So yeah, I feel like it's a little slow today since there's a time change, so not everybody knows that I'm on right now. So if you're catching this later, I'm sorry. I should have said something. I kind of forget about the time change situation, like I said, because we don't deal with it. So I kind of forget that that is something that people still deal with. However, I did hear that they passed a law that they're doing away with it, which kind of makes sense to me because it was originally for farmers and whatnot. And we don't have as many people in that situation now. So Ade Sarmiento Morea says, hi, Amanda. How are you? I'm doing pretty good. I have been having a little bit of a cough the last few days, which has been frustrating as heck trying to sleep. But let's be real, I don't think I was going to sleep last night anyway because I decided it was a real good idea to watch the movie Smile on Paramount Plus. And yeah, I was very jumpy all night. And I was coughing and I didn't want to wake up Aaron. So I went into Bryson's room and I'm sitting there, what's that? What's that? All for quite some time because I was just paranoid. I don't want to recommend the movie because it was quite heavy. It was quite difficult to get through from a mental health aspect because it did deal a lot with suicide, but also from a jump scare aspect, from a paranormal aspect. It just kind of checked all the boxes. So it was a pretty good movie, but it was just very it was very challenging to get through for myriad of reasons, and I found myself having to look away quite a few times just because things got too intense for me. Dan says, glad I caught you live. I'm glad that you are here too. Hi, Alkin. Much love from Texas. I love it. Slick Ricky 3000 says, how's the weather? It's actually gorgeous here. We're now in the 50s or 60s, so it's wonderful to have it coming down to a more tolerable degree. Hi, Edward. Once you see it, it's too late. Yeah. Yes. So it was one of those things that I kept telling myself not to watch this movie. So I saw an ad for it and it looked kind of good. And I enjoy a good thriller or a good horror movie, but I have very specific stipulations that I have to fit into. So I don't want to watch anything that's over the top gory. I don't want to watch anything that has a heavy paranormal theme to it that's just going to make me paranoid for weeks. And I obviously really struggle with certain themes of suicide and stuff. And that wasn't too bad. Like the mental health theme was handled pretty well, other than the fact that it was just unnecessarily graphic. I didn't think it was terribly handled, but It definitely checked a lot of the boxes, but I thought it was a very interesting metaphor for trauma and how we hold on to that and it can consume our lives and it can have this negative effect and it can distort our reality and then we pass that trauma on to someone else. So it had a very interesting theme in that regard and I really enjoyed that. But yeah, it definitely had me staring at the ceiling at 2 a.m. going, I shouldn't have done that. I should not have done that. Edward says because Saw is not over the top gory. The first one I did not think was gory. The second one starts really pushing the envelope, and everything after that is just straight out torture porn or horror porn. And yeah, I couldn't watch the remainder of the Saw movies. I really want someone to just go through and edit out the gratuitous gore because I enjoy the storyline, but I just can't handle that level of guts. Hello, Ra. Hua, hua. I feel like I'm not saying that correctly, but in French that means king, so I love it. Yes, the disco ball cup is back. Alkin says it's snowing here. First snowfall, great that you could upload the Lorna Shore video. If you guys have not had a chance to watch the Lorna Shore video, I would suggest doing so because I don't know how long it's going to stay up. So with that being said, it was something that I had to fight to get released and I'm still not sure that they're going to let me keep it up. And with that being said, also my Instagram has been deleted and I have no idea why. I contested it. So, I mean, hopefully it will be back because I know that's the way a lot of you reach out to me, but in the meantime, or if it doesn't get reinstated, restored at all, please know that you can email me or you can leave a comment here on the channel. You can come into the live stream. I do read my comments. I do read all my emails. It might take me a little bit of time to get back, but I mean, it was that case with Instagram too. I only check my Instagram a few times a week, but I am a little panicked because I know a lot of people were reaching out to me on there and contacting me on there in regards to mental health related things. So I was told that I was in some way violating the community terms of service. And I literally get on a couple times a week. I'm doing good if I post once every couple weeks. So I don't spam. I obviously don't post anything violent. I don't know what community standards I violated. And I can't get any information. They don't give you that information. So I'm quite frustrated about that, but we'll see what happens. David says, suggestion to all, follow Amanda on 2 different sites in case this happens again. My Twitter got locked out too. I haven't been able to get into my Twitter either. So I guess for now it's just YouTube and old school email if you want to talk to me. David says, reverse bear trap still freaks me out. How do you think I feel? Her name's Amanda. Dan says, joking aside, we tend to take hostages instead of friends with past trauma. Yeah, and this kind of played as the trauma being this parasite, this demon that that would feed on people, that would possess people in a certain way, and then they would lose their life to suicide in front of someone else that's passing on the trauma. And it was like I said, a very interesting theme. It was kind of like Saw. It had a very interesting theme. I just think that it could have been stronger if they hadn't relied so much on jump scares and gore to carry the message, because it wasn't necessary. It was a good message all on its own. Elon is destroying Twitter. It will be dead soon. Aw, darn shucks. I don't know what we will do without another social media platform. Oh, yeah, we have someone from Finland in here. I'm jealous. I want to go back and play with the reindeer and just live in the igloo forever. Dan says, gotten point now, I'll leave when the family watches crime dramas or court shows. Well, my mom was always really into the crime dramas and stuff. She loved watching Law and Order and CSI and all those shows like that. It's really sad because I look at the shows I watch, like Dexter, for example, or even Lucifer or Breaking Bad. Most of the shows I got into, I realized were shows that my mom really would have liked, and it makes me sad because I would have loved to be able to watch these with her. Most of the shows I watch, I kind of get into by myself, so I don't really have anyone to chat with about it, and that's probably why things come up a lot in here, is because I'm just very excited to finally be able to interact with someone about the things that I watch, particularly the ones that I really enjoy. I just really like being able to share my insights and to talk and hear other people's perspectives and stuff. And sometimes when things do tend to be more mentally challenging. If there's themes that are more mentally challenging, I've realized that I talk a lot about it to process it and to get through it. So you're probably gonna be hearing a lot about that movie for a few weeks because my brain needs to process some of the things it saw and get through it. Yeah, Dexter was one of my all-time favorites too, Pete. Oh, you were here at Levi, if I remember correctly. They miss you too. I was in oh my gosh, where was I at? Erin, are you in here? I don't know if Erin's in here right now. Oh my gosh. I know I was in Avalo for a while, but I think that was just my little layover airport. Why can I not remember? Probably because I couldn't pronounce it in the first place. James says, "Hi, all first time for a stream. Welcome, welcome." Erin, what town did we stay at? What town were the igloos in? I just completely forgot. I remember my mind kept wanting to say Reykjavik because that's where I went in Iceland, but no, my Finland trip was a million times better. I think Iceland was my worst trip. Yes, very sorry to hear, Alcon about not feeling good and about a lot of the things going on. I know that there's a lot of very emotional things going on, and then to get sick on top of that, I'm really sorry. I hope that we can help you heal a little bit. BJ Dynamite says, "I love Lucifer. Lucifer, my favorite show." Yes, it's one of my favorites too. And strangely enough, I get to talk to Amy Garcia tonight, so that will be very exciting. It's only for a few minutes. Not sure if I'm going to be able to post anything on the channel or anything, but I'll at least be able to get a screenshot, and I'm kind of excited about that. So we'll see how that goes. Yep, see, Coxslouten. Yep, that's why I didn't remember it because I couldn't pronounce it. Yes, it was a really great place to relax. Alkin says, "At least no drop of alcohol the last 4 days." Yay! I think you get the first snaps of the day. Now you guys are just making up words in there, all right? Now y'all are just this is even a word anymore. So I'm gonna share some good news. I feel like we all need good news in our lives, as always. And let's see. There's actually a couple, and I was torn between which ones to use. So Kingston, New York, passed a historic 15% rent reduction law. It says Kingston in New York State has passed a law cutting rents by 15%. This move comes as a result of a tenant union actively presenting the legislator to combat rent hikes in the city. And I have friends that live in New York, and this is a very real problem that it's already ridiculously expensive to live there. I stayed in a flat that was probably the size of my bedroom, bathroom, and master closet, and it was $4,000 a month. I didn't pay the bills, but I knew that it was $4,000 a month, and that's not even including any utilities or anything. So it was um, not a one bedroom. When it doesn't even have an official real bedroom. Oh my gosh, I don't know why I'm spacing out the word for it. Oh my gosh. But when you have an apartment that doesn't really have a official bedroom or anything. Yeah, it was $4,000 a month. I said studio. Thank you, David. Studio apartment, and I just couldn't fathom that anybody would want it to live there. And that wasn't in the Upper East Side or anything. It wasn't in the ritzy part of town. It was just in um, kind of neutral area. I also thought this was really cool. Brazilian kids breed modified mosquitoes to limit spread of this virus in their area in their country. So with its densely packed houses, Brazil's Complexo de Mare is an area vulnerable to outbreaks of dengue fever. By raising mosquitoes infected with Wolbachia bacteria, local children are helping eliminate the disease. And I love that these are kids, that are really making a difference. So I thought that one was really awesome too, that these kids are working to make a difference and to eradicate a major problem that's an epidemic in these areas. I know that mosquitoes carry a lot of very fatal diseases, so I think it's awesome that the youth is getting involved to combat that. I love seeing when the younger generations get involved in stuff. Dan says we had 650 homeless about 4 to 5 blocks from us this October. Wow, that's very heavy. James says, I really, really want to thank you for the React videos. They are what led me to the Facebook group and to hopefully be able to join the battle against stigma. Well, you're here, so you're already joining the battle, but thank you very much. Alkin says, so next Friday at 1 p.m. After it, a funeral service, I hope it is called. Well, I just know that we're here if you need somebody to talk to on that day to get through that. I know it can be very difficult. Metal Marks is so small an apartment you had to leave to change your mind. I was only there for a few days. I was staying with a friend, and this apartment belonged to a friend of his who happened to be out of town, so we were able to stay there. So no, I didn't need to stay for any extended period of time or leave to change my mind. I knew the second that I heard about it that that was not for me. Mm. Hopefully Nightwish will be back soon. Yes, hopefully. I love all the good thoughts that we're sending to each other. That always makes me really happy. I think that that's my favorite thing about the channel is how much we just send positivity and share positivity with each other and hold space, you know, when things are not so positive or not feeling so good, because unfortunately that's life. You know, things aren't always rainbows and sunshine, even in the healing process, even when we're in a good place. And I think that's a huge misconception. I've said it before, that people have this idea that happiness and that healing and that coming out of depression looks a certain way, and that if you're not happy all the time, then you're still stuck in that cycle. And that's just not the case, especially for people that are more susceptible to mental health challenges and struggles. We're gonna have days where we just don't want to function. That was for me yesterday. I have this tendency that I do take time for myself, right? Every day. I always take time to do yoga and to meditate and to read anything. You know, I always take time for myself, but a lot of the times I'll just make a to-do list that's way too long and then push myself really hard to get it all done. But then the next day I'm just wiped out emotionally, physically, usually just wiped out, and I just need a break. So I've come, number one, to recognize this so I can try and make more of an effort to balance things and to spread things out as much as possible. But number two, to allow myself that day of rest. Because when you don't have a traditional 8 to 4 job, you don't have set hours. The irony is that I did this so I could have more time off, but then I end up doing more to the point of where I don't really have any official time off if I'm not careful. You know, I have to schedule time just like I would with an 8 to 4 job to be totally off, to just relax and do something for a day, like watch scary movies that are going to keep me up all night for a month. Life is giraffes and Skittles. Oh, Metalmark says, your favorite TV shows and why? Would anybody in here like to answer that for Metalmark? I think everyone in here is going to, I'll tell you in just a second. I just want to see how many you guys know of. So let's see how many of my favorite TV shows you guys know. So post it here in the comments. I'll tell you if you're right or wrong, and then I'll answer Metalmark. All women, please make sure to get your checkups. Absolutely. I was happy to hear about Flora as well, that she is healing, that she's moving forward with that. So yes, that's really awesome. I was pretty concerned about her too, and I hope they do come back and create new material soon. But I also hope she just takes time to heal. As we were just saying, it's very important not to push yourself. Metal Mark says, "Excuse my ignorance. It's okay. It's okay. Just haven't been in enough of these." Edwards is married with children. David says Breaking Bad, Dexter, Boy Meets World. Alkin says Breaking Bad, Murder, She Wrote, and documentaries. Loving it, loving it. Dan Aksha says old schools, The Pretender, Star Trek. I have never seen a Star Trek or Star Wars in my life, so I'm pretty sure I'm just going to watch my subscriber count drastically drop. But yeah, I've never seen a Star Wars, never seen Star Trek. I actually have tried to watch Lord of the Rings multiple times and I keep falling asleep, which is really weird because I love fantasy and stuff. And I went into it thinking that I was going to enjoy it, and it was just a lot of walking. And oh gosh, I don't remember which View Askew it was, but one of the Kevin Smith movies I remember was talking about, here's Lord of the Rings, and he just walks a few feet, and it's, oh, here's the second one, and he just walks the other way, and then he takes the ring and throws it in, here's the third one, and just walks and throws the ring in, and I said, I've never felt so represented because that movie is just literally hours of people walking, and I said, I feel like if they would have made it shorter and cut out a lot of the needless walking sequences, I would have enjoyed it a lot more. It was like, Deathly Hallows Part 1 for Harry Potter. We really could have went without a lot of the filler, content there of, "Oh, here they are walking through the forest for the 19th time." Could totally do without that. David says, "Have you finished the Indiana Jones movies?" You know, I almost got sucked into another one the other day, but we were kind of voting, and that was the one Aaron had voted, but Bryson didn't want to watch it. I don't know why, but Bryson didn't want to watch it. And one of the other movies that were up, I'd already seen, so I didn't want to watch that one. And I was willing to watch it, don't get me wrong, but we ended up doing Men in Black because Bryson had never seen that. So we ended up watching Men in Black, and he really liked that. But nope, I've watched one Indiana Jones movie. Wait, what happened to Kelly Bundy? Oh, she has MS. Christina Applegate announced she has MS. Oh my gosh, that is scary. I hope that she can find the treatment she needs and manage that the best she can. But yeah, MS is pretty serious. Edward says, "I don't know this, but I can see you being a Sex and the City fangirl. I could be way wrong on that." You know, I've had a lot of people say that, and I thought about giving it a chance, getting into it, watching it, but I just never did. And now I feel like it's one of those things that if I went back and watched it now, it would be really dated and it would be hard to get into. I never watched Friends when it was popular either, but I watched some episodes later, and it was very hard to get into it because everything socially was just very different. So it was very hard to get into later. David is telling Erin, "I'm disappointed she needs to finish Indiana Jones." Y'all need to get off my. I'm gonna need you to get all the way off my back, in the words of Ryan George. I want to see Amanda in the city. Uh, Juice says, "My week's been great. Well, I'm happy for you." So to answer your question, oh, we have Rurikar. Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a great week. Hope you're having a great week too. To answer your question, Metal Mark, there's several. Breaking Bad is the obvious one. If you hadn't caught that by the live size, Jesse Pinkman that floats around in my videos every now and then, especially in the streams or in the ceaseless conversations that we have, and I liked that because I think that people don't realize how close we all are to quote unquote Breaking Bad, to how easy it would be for any person in the wrong circumstances to go from being your average, in this case, teacher who just kind of has an average life to being a drug kingpin. And that's an extreme example. But even like with the Nazis in Germany, these, for the most part, were just average people who were in the wrong set of circumstances. So for Walter, it's okay, he already has an unfulfilling marriage and an unfulfilling job, and his company was kind of taken out from underneath him. He didn't get the recognition he deserved. And then on top of that, he gets a terminal illness and is just drowning in debt. Well, that's a lot of very heavy situations to be coping with, and a lot of people, they don't know how to cope, or even if they do, and this is just too much, might end up making unhealthy, destructive decisions based on that. And I think that watching his downfall was just very telling of, in many ways, mental health. You know, that it can happen to anyone. It can happen to absolutely anyone if we're not getting the support we need, or if we just find ourselves in the wrong cocktail of circumstances. So Breaking Bad is definitely one. Indiana Jones is the hill I die on, David says. So yes, Breaking Bad is one of them. Dexter was one because I always kind of had a bit of that complex that while I can understand certain people that others brush aside. For example, I actually just became pen pals with a convicted murderer. More on that here in a bit if you remind me. But I think that Dexter kind of gave my shadow some playtime because I hear these horrific stories of things happening, like crimes against children and stuff like that. And it always flared my shadow up, and Dexter in some way helped me process all of that trauma because I could live vicariously through him as he took out these bad guys. And I'm not saying that we should be killing people per se, but I just don't think that everyone deserves to live. especially when they've just done really, really, really heinous things with no remorse about it. And treatment doesn't doesn't help them when they've tried multiple different approaches and nothing's really seeming to help them. Which brings me to Dahmer. Dahmer was also really good because it just I obviously studied a lot about him over the years, or at least in taken a lot of information about the case, and I thought that they did a really excellent job at portraying his mental health struggles, which I sustain could have been addressed and probably prevented a lot of these atrocities, but also obviously respecting the victims and showing their fear and their loss and how that affected their families and their families' mental health. So I think that it balanced it quite well in showing here's what's going on in his mind, but also here is uh, the product of what he did, the consequences of what he did. So let's see, Handmaid's Tale. Handmaid's Tale is really good, and I think that June, or Offred in the beginning, as we know her, really gave me a female, an empowered female role model in a certain sense, that she finds herself in this, dystopian world in really abhorrent circumstances, but still manages to keep fighting and still manages to find hope and still manages to find the little positive things that she can hold on to, and she still fights back. And I thought that was really the thing that attached me the most to that. Although that show I used for exposure therapy in the beginning at the suggestion of my mental health professional that I was seeing at the time, and it was really, really helpful because it helped me get over, or not get over, but be able to better cope with depictions of suicide or depictions of sexual assault, since those were things that bothered me a lot. It helped me be able to deal with that in a more productive way. So I was really grateful for that. But I think All of the and Lucifer, of course, and I think Lucifer was a really great metaphor also for mental health, because number one, Tom Ellis was gorgeous. So I'm not even going to pretend that that wasn't a reason that I watched it. It was just to see Tom Ellis take his shirt off. But I think that it was a really great metaphor for mental health, because I could really relate to being afraid of people seeing your devil face, being afraid of how people were going to perceive you if they knew the real you, or how they would be afraid of you. So I really related to Lucifer's character in that as well. Uh, Bob says, do you have to be a Patreon to talk with you guys other than the live chat? I tried to reach out for some answers a few weeks back, but no response. I ended up in the hospital. Just curious. Thank you. You do not have to be a Patreon. I will respond to all of my emails. So if you just send me an email, I will respond there. I try to respond to all my comments. You absolutely don't have to be a Patreon. The Patreons just also get 2 Zoom calls where we all hang out each month. So excellent question. Oh my gosh, Mick. Mick, thank you so much. Mick just made a pledge, says you need to watch Bloodywood Dana Dan, but have closed captions on. Some is sung in Hindi, so need the English. Duly noted. Thank you so much for pledging, for believing in my outreach, for supporting and helping my outreach. Why on earth did that not? It's pasting that, copying and pasting that, so I had it for later. I will definitely do that. I will definitely get on that. So thank you. Victor asks, was Charles Manson smart? I think that depends on how you define smart. Charles Manson was incredibly manipulative, to the point of being able to convince people, obviously, to do very atrocious things. And I think that takes a level of intelligence to be able to manipulate people to that degree. However, I think that Charles Manson was also incredibly unstable, and there was a lot that needed to be addressed that I'm not sure in his case could have been. I think that if there was anything that could have been effective in treating him, it definitely was none of the traditional methods. Which have to talk on that for a minute. Where's my letter? Here it is. So I was really excited. Let me make sure my address has changed. I was really excited because I read this book called Shakespeare Saved My Life. And it's about this prisoner named Larry Newton who is in prison for life for murder because he murdered someone when he was 17 years old. And he signed a plea agreement saying that they would not pursue the death penalty if he agreed to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So this entire book is how the Shakespeare program that this woman brought into the prison system, particularly this prison system in this max security prison, helped him to get context, to get help to educate him on the morality behind a lot of actions and violence and stuff. And afterwards, when he'd read Macbeth and Hamlet and stuff, he demonstrated the ability to understand that violence and stuff is wrong. So in many ways, Shakespeare helped rehabilitate him when other things could not. And unfortunately, he's still going to spend life in prison. And he tried to appeal this and took it to the Supreme Court, and it hasn't worked. But it was a really moving account for me, and I ended up writing him a letter, and he ended up writing me back. So I got this letter back from Larry, and I've been I was really excited about it. I clutched it and ran back. I'd been waiting to see if he would write me back. So I ran back to my house and immediately read it, and it was very insightful. It's very intelligent. The man's very intelligent, but he presents Shakespeare to at-risk youth and to other inmates to give them perspective on how they can apply this to their life to build their morality. And he spent a substantial amount of time and effort providing materials and education for these individuals to reduce further violence. So obviously can't bring back the life that he took, but he, I think, in many ways is saving other lives. And I just think it's a great tale of how even in the worst circumstances, somebody can find meaning and purpose. He spent 10 years in isolation. His whole 20s were in isolation. So he spent every single day of his 20s in isolation. I just can't imagine spending 10 years basically in my closet, in a room the size of my closet, with no light, no ability to go outside, no ability to do anything at all, no TV, no nothing, no real human interaction. That just sounds like a fate worse than death, in my opinion. But I'm very, very excited to get to know him better and to communicate with him and hopefully facilitate a friendship. Metalmark says intelligence and being good or evil can be mutually exclusive. Absolutely. I don't think intelligence and being good are mutually exclusive. That's if that's what you're trying to say. I think you can be intelligent and use that for evil in the case of Manson or Hitler, people like that. Metal Mark says we're very much a product of our upbringing, so pick your parents well. I think that I always thought that, you know, environment, it's kind of like genetics loads the gun and environment pulls the trigger. So I think that our upbringing, the decisions we make, things like that can very much obviously have a huge impact on us. But in cases like my dad was very severely abused. He was sold to a farm when he was very young and then ended up joining the military as soon as he possibly could to get away from his abusive father. And my dad ended up being the most loving person. He did a lot with his life. He really wanted to help other people. He was a great dad. So I think that there comes a point where you say, okay, I have these things. How do I overcome them? Or you say, okay, I have these things and I'm going to use these as an excuse to perpetuate a cultural genetic cycle of toxicity and of trauma. So you're just going to pass on that generational trauma. Yeah, the nature versus nurture argument's a big one. I think it's a combination of both. Eugene says, I was getting better, but now I'm getting over COVID and have had infection in my face. Well, I hope that you recover quickly, because that just sounds miserable. Edward says, most historically horrible people were intelligent. Absolutely. Yep. Not sure we all did this to ourselves. I don't think we completely, did it to ourselves. Victor says, will we all have the answer to anxiety? If you're feeling this way, you did it to yourself, so then you can undo it. Mental power, we have to use it. And then Nick says, not sure, we all did this to ourselves. So let me share kind of a fun insight on that, on how I feel about that, because I agree and disagree. When a lot of you might know this if you know my story, but when I got out of therapist who told me, um, well, she told me that I was never going to get decertified as having a serious mental illness, that it wasn't possible, right? And this was just days after I came back from Canada from almost jumping off the ledge. And I had sought her out because I was just kind of desperate. I wanted to be happy and I didn't know what to do. So I remember leaving. I was just white knuckling my steering wheel in the car, so angry. I went back to my house. I didn't know what to do. I felt like I needed my parents' wisdom. They weren't here, obviously, because they passed away many years before. And eventually I thought, you know what? I'm friends with Diamond Dallas Page and Eric Bischoff, and maybe DDP can help me just get some perspective. And that's the closest dad advice I'm going to get. So I just reached out to him and I didn't tell him the depth of my despair, but I said, I'm really just struggling and I don't know what to do. I'm really struggling mentally and I don't know what to do. And he said, well, you did this to yourself, buddy. It's on you to undo it. And I was so angry that I threw my phone at the wall and shattered it and immediately thought, clearly, you don't understand. You don't know what it's like, yada, yada, yada. But the longer I sat there, the more I realized, he's kind of right. It's not that we did this to ourselves. That's absolutely not true. Some things do occur that are outside of our control. However, we very much have control of A, how we respond to it, as opposed to reacting to it, and B, the behaviors and the lifestyle that we have, and if that's conducive to optimal mental health. So we do have a lot more control than we think, and there is a lot that we can do to combat anxiety. But the reason the anxiety is there in the first place is definitely not our fault, but we can exacerbate it or dampen it depending on our decisions. Edward says genetics and upbringing, among other factors, play a huge role in who we are, but we also have the ability to take control of our own well-being, much easier in some cases, but always doable, I believe. I agree. Victor says it's a choice and I choose to rise above. And I had that same choice, but I also think that without the right skills, so if we start developing symptoms of anxiety, right, say in response to a traumatic event, and we don't know how to deal with that anxiety, it's not about just, okay, I'm going to rise above this and get over the anxiety, because that doesn't work like that. You can't just say, I'm going to get over it. But you can say, I'm determined to find the skills that I need, to learn the skills that I need to be able to combat this. So I don't think it's as easy as just saying, I'm going to rise above, I'm going to get over this, although kudos to you for being able to find what you needed. But I do think that we need to take more responsibility for the decisions that we're making and how that affects our mental health. Yeah, Metal Mark says, sometimes when things hit closest to home, it gets us the angriest because inside we know it's true. To thine own self be true. Absolutely. David says, we can't control what happens to us. We can't control how we act to these situations. I will argue that I don't think react is the proper term. I think respond, because if you're reacting, that means that you're just having whatever, you're just acting in whatever way comes to you first without reflecting on it or thinking how it's going to affect you or other people. But if you're responding, you're taking the time to look at the situation, reflect on things, analyze the data in front of you, and then come forth and respond accordingly. It's like if you're having an argument, reacting is just you're blowing up and saying anything that comes to your mind without filter. But responding is saying, okay, how is whatever I'm about to say going to affect my relationship with this person's emotions, etc. So I think there's a difference between reacting and responding. We can't control the plane crash. Do we swim and stay afloat or just sink in despair? Absolutely. Victor says, correct, I guess, but after the fact, I see how I took anxiety out of my life. Yeah, and that's amazing. I do too. I think that it's a process. I want to get to our wins. So just make sure we have enough time for all of them, because there's a lot of them this week. Because I decided to start doing, even though I'm doing the streams every 2 weeks, I decided that I was going to still post every Friday, and then I can read all of the all of the wins on our stream. So this is 2 weeks worth of wins. So there's more than normal. If this is your first time, this Snap Cup is inspired by Legally Blonde 2 as a way to just share some warm fuzzies with the community and share some of our wins so that we can remember how strong we are, that we're making progress. Even when it's just little things, thank you so much, Erin. Even when it's just the quote unquote little things, those become the big things when we consistently do them, when we consistently hold on to them, when we consistently get up in the morning, when we consistently just do that one little thing. So this is just a way of sharing those wins with the community so that we can all be a little bit inspired. That means, yep, as Erin said, it comes with the song. So, Edward, now it's time to mute. Snap cup time, gather ye round, friends and foes together, united and bound. Pass it to your neighbor instead of blowing up, and you'll find harmony and love in a snap cup. I realize I sound even weirder this week because my voice is kind of going in and out. So everybody's saying sing, sing, sing. Let's see. Oh, David, you're the first one. David has done 2 weeks straight of yoga, cut dose of muscle relaxers in half, and back is getting better. Yay! Snaps for David. 2 weeks of straight yoga is huge because I had pledged to do yoga every day this year, and I remember the first couple weeks, my brain was going every other day, I don't want to do this, I don't want to be here, don't make me do this, and I got more used to it, so that's a less frequent thing, but it's huge to be able to stay with something for that long, especially in the beginning, knowing that you can cut your muscle relaxers back safely and that you're still healing and getting better is huge, so big snaps to you. Okay. Edward says, how you think about things, perspective is important. If you're here, you have a weekly win. Even if you can't think of one, perspective being here shows you are a fighter for your well-being. Absolutely, because you showed up for yourself. Oh, is Alkin? I think Alkin's taken off. Oh, sorry, I have to leave. I'm freezing like hell. Have to go to bed. Well, I hope you rest well, Alkin. Thank you for joining us. Mwah. I'll see you soon. Craig Bartlam says, I went back socializing in my local for a few beers and pool for the first time since before lockdown. Thanks to advice from your channel, panic attacks I suffer from, which made me become agoraphobic and isolated, were overcome calmly and easily. And I enjoyed myself out for the first time in a long time. Thanks, everyone. Big snaps to you. And you know what? Snaps to the community for help supporting people like Craig so that we can not get past, but so we can challenge our anxiety symptoms, our panic attacks, our depression symptoms, all of those things. That's amazing. I'm very proud of you. I hope that you had a really fun time with your friends, but just being able to go out and being able to kind of be on the high of that accomplishment, I'm sure was amazing in of itself. I'm glad that you're making progress with your agoraphobia and panic attacks. I would love to hear some of the tips that you have, just to see if there's anything that maybe I have never experienced or never thought of in how you dealt with your panic attacks and your agoraphobia. So I would just kind of be curious of some of the things that you did while you were going out and about, maybe some of the mantras that you had that you told yourself while you were going through this process. I'd really like to hear that. Big snaps for you, Craig. Hello, Felony. Long time no see. How are you? Valerie Fisher says, when I was in the hospital for depression, I called home one night to see how everything was and talked to my aunt before we hung up. She said, I love you. Remember that. And she never expressed her feelings much. I felt so much hope from that call. I love love, so I really love when people are able to express it and share it and talk about it. And snaps to you for being able to find that comfort. And I'm sure what was a time of challenge and what could have been kind of a dark time. I hope that you are recovering. I hope that you are feeling that love and that that's going to carry you through the next few steps of your healing process. I'm also happy that you were able to get the help that you needed, the professional help that you needed at that time. So let us know how you're doing. Big snaps to you. Oh, I'm good that you're doing okay. It is good to see you back, Felony. Dennis, I'm not sure if it's Royce or Royce, says finished outpatient treatment for alcoholism a couple weeks ago, as well as EMDR therapy for PTSD. Standing strong and standing proud. Big snaps to you, Dennis, for being able to finish that outpatient treatment and for taking on EMDR therapy. Those are both huge, huge, huge steps in the healing process. And I'm sure they're going to have a lot of positive impact on your journey. So I can't wait to hear about things going forward and how that has had an impact on your life. Being able to go through the alcohol treatment. EMDR is one of those things that a lot of people don't understand, but it's super effective. So I always highly recommend that for people that struggle with PTSD, because if there's anything I've learned in the last 24 hours, it's that you don't want to let your trauma take control. You want to make sure that you're combating that so it doesn't end up eating you, literally eating you. David says, sometimes I think we overuse the word love in the US and it loses some of its meaning. I agree. I think that either it gets overused or underused, and it's very hard to find that balance. But yeah, I think that the word love is very interesting. I also think that everything in this world is driven by love, whether an act of love, a lack of love, or a quest for love. I think that love really drives most human behavior, if not all of it. Casca says, can't recall my mother actually saying that she loved me, just rants about protecting me. But protecting me from who? Not that I hate on her or anything. It is what it is. But protection for some people is how they express love, is their language of love. Not all people are verbal people, so protection for them might be the only way they know to express love. David says lack of love can lead to hate. It's opposite. I don't think hate is the opposite of love. I think apathy is the opposite of love. But yes. A different form of life says, I have a close friend who's been my rock the last few years. Even after all the hell it put her through, she's always been there to support me, and I've finally been able to work and afford to order her a really nice gift. She's done so much for me, so it feels amazing to me to be able to give something back. Snaps to you for doing that for her, and for recognizing that it is very important that we, whether verbally, whatever our love language is, whether it be words of affirmation or gifts or acts of service, that we're really expressing appreciation for the people in our lives so that we can really cultivate these relationships. Snaps to you for being able to do that for her. I'm sure it felt amazing to her as well. Nick says, I did choose to join the Marines, but didn't get to choose where I got sent and what I saw or did when I got there. And that's absolutely true. And you don't have to apologize. Nick also said, sorry, so negative, just in a dark place. And lashing out, absolutely no need to apologize. And believe me, that's not lashing out. You didn't choose that. You didn't choose what you saw. And I don't think that when we make choices, we always know, obviously, what the consequences, at least the full consequences of those choices are going to be. Bomber 44 says, after a series of setbacks with my knee and the weather, it's currently flooding around my town. Thankfully, the town itself is unaffected. However, my running track is underwater. But I just ran my first 5K in 5 weeks, and hopefully by the end of the year, I can get back to doing 10Ks before footy season. You know what? Snaps to you for being able to do that, even though your normal track is underwater or has your typical routine and stuff is being affected. You know what? Snaps to you for finding an alternative to that and being able to press forward and still be motivated, still want to pursue this thing that's so great for your health, for still pursuing that even when circumstances are not ideal. I think that's huge, because a lot of people say, oh, it's raining, I can't run now, or oh, I injured this part of myself, so now I can't do anything at all, when you still can, I promise. I do not know what footy season is. I was thinking at first football, but then I realized no, because football season just passed, didn't it? So, or we're in the process of it. So maybe I'm wrong. So I'm not sure what footy season is. Hello, Luke Alone Productions. Eugene says, well, we are social primates after all, and empathy is how we form our bonds that helped us propagate our species. Yep. Okay, yes, it is European football. I was correct. Apparently their season's just different than ours. Jake Smith says, working through my grieving process after losing my grandfather. My girlfriend has been my support group so far, and I've picked up some journaling in the process. Snaps to you for recognizing the need for a grieving process and then taking action accordingly. Grief can be something that just cripples us and that we get lost in, but there are many effective ways of coping with it. Journaling was huge for me too. I did a memory journal specifically, and then I journal a lot of my feelings, but I really focused on the memory journal. It's great that you have support and that you recognize your need for support, but I'm very proud of you for addressing the need for a grieving process and for doing the best you can. Snaps. Wade says, I don't know the topics today, but here's where my heart and mind are. I despise mental illness. It's had such a great impact on my life, directly and indirectly. Carry on, folks. Gotta run. Well, thank you for stopping by, Wade. And I can completely understand where you're coming from. That sometimes just the thought of having to deal with anxiety symptoms or depression symptoms can just be absolutely frustrating, really, really frustrating. So yes, I very much understand and hold space for that. T. Montgomery says, stood my ground today with my doctor and demanded different meds as the ones I'm currently on aren't working. Huge snaps to you for that, because a lot of people don't realize that it's very important that you're speaking up for yourself, that you're standing up for yourself, and that if one treatment isn't working or one medication isn't working or medication in general isn't working for you, that you say so. And if you're not being heard, that you find another professional. That's huge. I had to do that several times because I had many mental health professionals that really just tried to push medications, which had adverse effects on me. And it would just make me feel more hopeless because I felt like nobody was listening to me when I said, these are making me hallucinate and I'm having dissociation episodes and really bad crippling panic attacks, and I couldn't handle it. And it was just, well, you just need to give it a couple weeks. No, if it's not working for me and I can't function, it's not working for me and I can't function, let's find a different way. So yes, big snaps to you for standing up for yourself and saying this isn't working for me, because we do know what works for us and what doesn't. And there is a certain level of, okay, this is just kind of uncomfortable and I need to get through it, or okay, this is just weird and I need to get through it. But if it's not working for you or if it's having adverse effects, you have every right to be able to have a say in your treatment. Let me say it again for the people in the back. You have every right to stand up and say what is best for you, or set boundaries with your professionals. Yes, for those of us here in the US, he's talked about soccer. Yes, I did know that part. Wade says, thanks, Manders. Lupulin Productions, who I think is still here in the house. I started my rehabilitation on my hand. I'm very happy because it means my left hand will get better. Snaps to you for starting that rehabilitation, moving towards healing. That is amazing, and I'm sure it will get better, and I look forward to hearing all about that healing. Marco Warco says, my mind is working again this past year. I've been able to work again and make a fair amount of money doing live sound engineering. It's been a long road since I was hit by a car 8 years ago. Luckily, I'm back on track with work to an extent. Well, you're back on track. It doesn't have to be perfect. You don't have to be completely back to where you are. Maybe you were, or maybe you will, maybe you won't be, but it's amazing that you're pressing forward. Snaps to you. It's amazing that you are persevering despite a big setback. I mean, getting hit by a car is a huge setback, and I'm proud of you for taking the time necessary to heal and to do what you needed to do before getting back to this. The cool kids in the back. Metal Mark says, I must be in the front row. Casca says, made my peace with that part of the past. There's scars, so to speak, but I've made peace with it. Trick ain't to look for inner peace because you'd be too busy searching for it. That's some good advice right there. Edward says, not really win, but given volume with which it's referred on this channel and all the crap I've endured, science bitch. I'm all in after a tumultuous journey. This better be worth the ride. It's so worth the ride, and I'm so excited to be able to talk to you about it. This is what I was talking about. Is I almost struggle when people don't know all the references I make. So I do get very excited. So you know what? Big snaps to you for finally joining the cool crowd. He's referring to Breaking Bad. For anybody that doesn't know, I have nagged and nagged and nagged and nagged, and finally he is coming back to it and finishing it up. And I know that for some people, they struggle to understand Walter's choices and stuff, and Edward has expressed that he just really struggled to understand why Walter made some of the bad decisions he did. And my explanation was that, some people, when they're faced with that much trauma, that much stress, number one, it's going to start to deteriorate the frontal lobes. Your frontal lobes aren't going to be working as well, so you're not going to be able to make the right judgment calls. So if you're consistently undergoing high stress, that does affect your frontal lobes and breaks down your ability to be able to make rational decisions, right? So there's that. And obviously, he's been under significant stress for quite some time, and then getting his diagnosis does not make it any better. But also, some people do panic. I think that there's different types of people when they get news, like Walter did in his case, lung cancer that was inoperable. Some people see this as okay, I'm going to die, and so I'm going to make the best of the time I have left. Some people lay down and die and just say, okay, well, I'm going to die anyway, it doesn't matter. And some people panic and don't know what to do and make destructive decisions. So I think that it was it was helpful for Edward to see a different perspective, or my perspective on Walter's behavior. Edward says peer pressure persists on this channel. I don't know what you're talking about. I guess I'm going to have to start having a questionnaire about different shows. So when you come onto the stream, you have to answer questions about certain shows, or you can't come into the stream. Edward says harder for me since I'm a cancer survivor. And that's absolutely understandable because, like I said, people react to these things in different ways. So my guess is that you did not make destructive decisions and become a meth kingpin, but some people just don't know how to cope and end up in desperation making unsound decisions, even if they are really intelligent, because Walter's clearly very intelligent beforehand, but there's a difference between being intelligent and being able to make rational decisions. Edward says, I did not cook meth. Did you really just ask what show Mr. Feeney is on? I hope that you are making that one of our opening questions, and you're not asking that as a serious question, because I think we're just going to have to disown you if that's the case. Donatello says, are some people helplessly depressed no matter what they do, or can anyone get to a state of health if they keep working at it with meds, counseling, and behavior modification? My 50-year-old friend says nothing works. I was in my 30s before I found something that works, and I think that there is treatment-resistant depression, but I don't think it's necessarily treatment-resistant. I think that the treatments that they are utilizing aren't helpful. So let's take Larry, for example, the prisoner I was talking about earlier. They have said that he is incapable of being rehabilitated because they tried to put him through different programs and stuff and counseling services, and he was offered these opportunities and they didn't work for him. So now he's considered incapable of being rehabilitated. But the angle of using Shakespeare, which was something he'd never been introduced to before in his life, the angle of using Shakespeare and getting through to him in a way that he could relate to and understand, had massive impacts on his mental health. So I'm a big believer that yes, anyone can heal and anyone can find solutions, but they might not always be the most obvious solutions. It might not always be medication or talk therapy, or it might not be just medication and talk therapy. For me, I realized that a lot of it was a combination of things. It wasn't, okay, well, I just need to journal, or I just need to see a therapist or whatever. It was how I structured my life. And that's what I talk about in my free 5-day challenge. So if you want to check that out, link is in the description. Go to happinessboost.life. You can sign up for that. But it talks about the things I had to do to really be at the top of my own personal happiness spectrum. So I think happiness looks different to every person, but I think everyone can find satisfaction and stability, if that makes sense. I hope that answers your question. Eugene just asked who Mr. Feeney is. David, I'm going to need you to educate him while I read our last win here. So this is Jake Smith. I finished off Resident Evil today, 2002. The game from 2002, as a way to devote time to myself. My girlfriend and I watched that Weird Al movie on Wednesday as a way to devote time to the relationship. Snaps to you for realizing the necessity for devoting time to yourself and to the relationship. And I hope that you enjoy both of those things. But yeah, it's important that we're devoting time to ourselves and to the people that are important in our lives. So we're obviously going to go over a few minutes today. That is okay. I have a few more minutes. So if you have any other wins you want to share, any ridiculous things you want to make me do for pledges today, make sure to get that in now. Like I said, all of that goes toward toward my mental health outreach. It's for your questionnaire. Please don't break my kneecaps. You know, David, you're already walking on thin ice, so I would not test me right now. Eugene says, "Are we talking Breaking Bad?" Because I haven't seen the show yet. Can you imagine Mr. Feeney on Breaking Bad? Oh my gosh. Maybe he would be Walter's coach. You know, he'd be Walter's conscience in some way. Yes, from Boy Meets World. I know this from Love the Show, not because Amanda bullied me into it. Mr. Feeney is amazing. As a matter of fact, this right here, this sign up here is a Mr. Feeney quote. It was from the final episode of Boy Meets World. It says, "Believe in yourself, dream, try, do good." And the final scene of that show just made me cry, ugly cry, when I first watched it, and still makes me ugly cry every time I see it. It's such a good show. Bryce and I are watching it through right now. He's never seen it, and it teaches life lessons in a very palatable way. It's not really in your face like a lot of the drama shows nowadays have to be. I miss the 90s for that, how things could be serious but lighter at the same time. But it's very age appropriate for him because when we started watching it, Corey was 11. So I think it'll give him an opportunity to just be introduced to some of the concepts that he's going to be dealing with, like puberty. I mean, it talks about puberty and things like that, and then he can have that discussed in a way that's more hands-on, as opposed to me just saying, "Here's what's going to happen to your body," which I have done. But I think seeing another boy go through that and stuff is more helpful. Yes, teacher from Boy Meets World. Paying attention to Amanda's TV shows, there will be a test at the end. I will fail it for sure. I think I'm gonna have to formulate a test. Yes. So next time there will be a test. Next stream there will be a test. Eugene says, "So y'all, in my late 40s, I've watched thousands of movies and shows, but never caught that one." Well, you need to go back and watch a few episodes because it's really cute. And they rebooted it under Girl Meets World. And that was cute in its own right, quite nostalgic, but it didn't have the same charm, in my opinion. And I think Aaron agreed with me. So I have to be winding down. I have a few things to go knock out today, a lot of studying to do. I'm doing natural sciences right now, so a lot about homeostasis and about cell structure and plant anatomy and animal anatomy and chemistry and just pretty much everything science related all at once. So who knows? Maybe I'll be able to make blue sky at the end of this too. Just kidding, YouTube algorithm. Just kidding. But yes. 2 points extra credit with your name spelled correctly. I have not had my science test yet. I probably won't have my science test for another few weeks, actually. But thank you guys so much for dropping in. As always, it's very good to see the familiar faces and meet some new people. And was happy to see some of the individuals who, I was just saying, some people who have not been here in a while. It's very good to see you guys again. But yes, thank you so much for dropping in and for sending me some energy I needed this morning with Instagram being deleted and having a little bit of altercations, not altercations, aggressive ones, but just stressful interactions with some of the people closest to me and in my life. I just am studying concepts that are completely foreign to me. It's been a bit of a heavy last couple of days, so I needed the energy just as much as you did today. I love you guys so much. Oh, Breaking Bad, Dexter, Walking Dead, Game of Thrones, never seen a single episode of those shows. I've seen all of Breaking Bad and Dexter, obviously. I've never seen an episode of Walking Dead. Aaron made me watch an episode of Game of Thrones, and I'm not into it. So, yes. But you need to watch Breaking Bad and Dexter immediately. Yeah, Donatello says start a reaction channel and start watching. Agreed. And have a great weekend, guys. Let me know if you have any questions or anything in the comments below, and I will see you soon. Mwah.